Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of my Riven guide. This episode I'm going to be going over summoner spells, runes and masteries, and items. And next episode I'm going to be going over combos and laning phase. So we'll start with summoners. Summoners with Riven, I usually take flash and teleport, as you can see in this clip right here. I used to take Ignite, but then I changed to Teleport because usually with Ignite, well, you take Ignite against people that can heal a lot, usually. But I take Ignite very, very rarely. So 99% of the time I take TP, and the reason for that is because with TP, with Riven, you can get around to places faster, you can split push, you can TP back to lane early game if you get sheet so you won't fall behind that bad. Usually if you fall behind or like you die early game because of a gank and you didn't ward or you're just not ready for it, and then the wave goes in your turret and then you're screwed because you lost like a wave and you're like 2 levels behind. Well, with TP you can save that and maybe you don't have a level disadvantage or half a level disadvantage, but it will be less of a disadvantage with TP. And also with TP, it's not win lane, win game. So in higher elo or whatever, in any elo, you wanna like do well on your lane, then look for other opportunities in other lanes, such as like your bottom lane losing, and then it's like, oh, put a ward down in that deep bush, or put a deep ward down bottom lane. I'm gonna TP if they engage on you, and then say okay, then you just TP if they're gonna go overextend, and then you try to help your bottom lane and hopefully get their turret after you kill them and get dragon control and possibly dragon. So that's for summoner spells. Ignite is useful, but TP is even more useful. So now I'm going to be going into runes and masteries. So for runes, I always take lifesteal on them. A lot of people, they either have 15 AD, 9 armor, and magic resist or cooldown reduction, or 12 armor pen and 6.8 AD, replacing the marks and quints. And I like to take lifesteal, and there's a reason behind that, because when you're playing Riven, you need like some sort of sustain, and usually you build a brutalizer first, and I'll get to items later, but you'll build a brutalizer first and then maybe like sustain like a vamp scepter or like double doors or something. So with lifesteal runes, then all you have to do is build a brutalizer and a pickaxe, maybe like 1 door, and then you have 7% lifesteal. You have 8% lifesteal actually, and that's actually enough to like sustain you. So this page, the difference between this page is and another page is the other page has magic resist, scaling magic resist for the glyphs. So and the other page I use very rarely. So this page, 8.5 AD and 5% flat cooldown reduction and 5% scaling cooldown reduction, or 3 scaling cooldown reduction. And the reason for that is because if you add them up, at level 18 you have 10% cooldown reduction, and that brings your cap with all the items that you build and your masteries. And for the second rune page, it's pretty standard. It's like the last one, except it replaces the olive cloud for scaling magic resist. And that cooldown reduction is made up for because this rune page is specific to triple AD or triple AP comps in the enemy team and an Akali. Akali's the only exception, where if it's just an Akali that's AP on the team, it's still really build because Akali is super annoying and you need MR for this rune page. So for masteries, this is pretty standard. I run cooldown reduction in there, and I also run the dangerous game mastery. It's really, really good for surviving level 1 battles or early game fights, because it gives you a decent amount of health. And Actually, this is from the old. This screenshot's actually kind of old because apparently you can't take screenshots with the new client with the program that I use. So I actually switched the point that gives, what do you call it? Warlord. I actually, since I have 3 points in Warlord right now, in this screenshot, I actually took 1 point out of it and put 1 more point in Devastating Strikes, which gives you 6% armor penetration, and that's taking away from the 5% increased bonus damage, and then if you take away 1 point from it, it's only 3.5. Because if you think about it, then the Warlord really, like, 5% is 5 AD out of 100 AD. It's really, really little, and I'd rather have the more armor pen. So, that's it for Masteries. So for items, as you can see here, these are all the items I would possibly get in a Riven game. So let's get started. My starting items are always longsword 3 pots. Some people get 4 pots, but I prefer 3 pots because instead of waiting at base, you could be defending like your buff, your red buff, your blue buff, defending from an invade. Because what if they invade? Then you're screwed. Like it's not worth 1 pot for the chance of getting invaded. That's why I only have 3 pots and I walk out of base instead of waiting for a 4th pot. And for your first pack, you will always want to try to get a brutalizer. That is your goal, and that is if you have like around 1k gold. But in the case you don't have around 1k gold, you can get like if you have around 780 gold, you can get 2 more long swords and a few pots, or yeah, because that'll provide more early game damage if you don't have enough gold. And also if you're like really poor and you have like around 500 or 600 gold, you can get a Doran's Blade and a health pot. So your next goal will be trying to get a pickaxe and Ionian Boots of Lucidity. And remember, you might have a Doran's Blade if you didn't back with enough gold. Usually I get a Doran's Blade at some point in the early game before 10 minutes. Unless I'm super ahead. So this is your goal. You want a pickaxe, Ionian Boots of Lucidity. You get either one depending on the situation. So if you're like against a range matchup, or like you need to kite a lot and you need to trade a lot, get in and out often, then you go for Lucidity Boots. If you want more damage because you're kind of winning already, get a pickaxe. Then after that, you want to turn that pickaxe into a Ravenous Hydra, and if you didn't already get your Ionian Boots, then you will want to get that. So after you get your Ravenous Hydra and the Ionian Boots of Lucidity, you want to get a Last Whisper, because that's for the armor pen. Shredding armor is very important, especially in top lane when your opponent usually stacks armor because they're like tanky bruiser, I guess. Then that's going to really help. Then next, you want to change your brutalizer or upgrade your brutalizer into a Youmuu's or a Black Cleaver. Black Cleaver is only if they're like really stagnant armor, like a Randuin's Omen already and working on a Sunfire Cape, or a Sunfire Cape working on a Randuin's Omen. Like double armor items in the mid game, you want to get a Black Cleaver. But if they only have like 1 or like no armor items, then you want to get a Youmuu's, because that active is really good for getting out of situations or chasing somebody. And the flat armor pen. So, and then eventually late game you'll probably switch out the Youmuu's for a Black Cleaver in the end. After you get your Youmuu's or your Black Cleaver and you have the rest of the items, you can work on a Bloodthirster. I prefer, or actually it doesn't matter which part you can get first, just get part of it until you can afford the whole thing, then you buy the whole thing. Then after I get the Bloodthirster, I follow it up with a GA. Usually like 99% of the time I get a GA, because usually late game you're gonna be the guy to initiate, or you're gonna have to be like, you're gonna have to get in the middle of the fight if you're gonna do something for the team. So you'll have GA, so if you do go in the middle and they end up locking you down first because you're squishy, then you have time for your team to start fighting the other people, and then they'll be distracted, and then you can come up from your GA and hopefully escape or keep fighting. And there are some alternative builds that I usually go for in situations where they have, such as switching out the Bloodthirster for a Mercurial Scimitar. Remove all CC. So what that does is, if they have like a Zed, or they removed all debuffs, so if they have like a Zed that's super fed, or if they have a Lux that's really annoying, a Fiddlesticks is especially annoying, a Veigar, because he can just stun you and you probably die. Anything that stuns a lot, then you might want this item. Another alternative is getting a Spirit Visage. So with the Spirit Visage, you will want to, when I talked about runes, I talked about the second page where I have scaling up mons and cooldown reduction. Now that the cooldown reduction had 10% cooldown reduction, so you can get the scaling of Mars and you can get Spirit Visage and you get 10% cooldown reduction, so it still gives you max cooldown reduction at the end of the game. Spirit Visage and a GA. So you're gonna be missing one more offensive item, but that's not really too bad, because if you're gonna die instantly, then what's the point of building more damage? You might as well be tanky and deal still a lot of damage and keep on like living. And also the passive helps your Hydra and your lifesteal quints to make it even more effective. And the last build that I might take is against an Akali or a really fed Fizz. I just get a early Hex Drinker, and then I get a Spirit Visage, and then I finish the rest of the Hex Drinker, and I take out the GA because there's no space. And that's it for items. Alright, I hope you guys learned a lot from this episode. It's not the most exciting of videos that I've put out, but hopefully you can bear with me as I try to provide information, and I'll try to make it more exciting next time. So I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.